Good morning, everyone. I'm about to head out on an adventure. It's my annual vacation to Australia. I go every year around this time, which is really great because it's great weather in Sydney. It's beautiful, it's warm, and also it's really bad weather in New York. Now, I'm also going to be traveling to New Zealand where I'm going to do a little bit of hiking and some photography. As always, I'm going to take you guys with me and hopefully I'm going to throw up a vlog about the trip. Now, before I go, I thought it'd be really interesting to show you guys what's in my camera bag. I've had lots of requests for this, so here goes. Now, firstly, let's talk about the bag itself. As you can see, I use a Tumi bag, a fashion bag. I don't actually use a genuine, camera bag like say other vloggers or YouTubers are using. The reason is I just like it. I think it looks really, really cool. It has plenty of zippers, plenty of pockets for me to put stuff in. It is weather resistant. It really is. Like seriously, this thing has got completely wet and nothing came through. It was amazing. I've had it for a couple of years now, so I will post a link to a bag similar to this one in the description below because I'm not sure if this one is available. They tend to refresh them with different models every year. Now, if we look around it, it is a little bit heavier than most camera bags because it is a fashion bag, so it's got a bit of leather and things like that. But look, I just really love this bag and it's the right size, fits plenty of stuff in it. So that is my bag. Now let's start with the camera. So I'm using the Sony a6400 for almost every one of my videos that you've seen. In fact, I think all of them have been on this camera. It's a great camera because it has a flip up screen so you can see things here. The quality is pretty good. So for 4K video, this quality is really quite excellent. It's a crop sensor, which means the sensor is smaller. It's APS-C. So it's not a full frame sensor, but still, I mean, you've seen most of my most recent videos where I've finally learned how to use the camera properly. The quality I think is pretty good. So great 4K. The 1080p quality though isn't that good. It really isn't great. There's a lot of articles and things like that on the web about how bad the 1080 is on this camera. But let's take a little bit more of a look at it. So there is a newer version, the Sony a6600 versus this one, the Sony a6400. The quality is actually the same because it uses the same sensor, but it does have a bigger battery with a bigger grip. And I have tried to use it. I actually found that the increase in weight of that camera with the bigger battery grip just wasn't worth it for me. And I didn't find the bigger battery grip because of the bigger battery to be as comfortable as this camera. The other thing about the new one is it does include in-body image stabilization, which means when you're holding the camera, it reduces some of the shakes. Now, for my purposes, I actually use this lens for video, which is the Sony G Master F4, which refers to the aperture, how much light is coming in, 18 to 105 millimeter. This is a great lens for video, especially for vlogging, because the lens is very stabilized. In fact, there's some tests online. I've even done some tests myself that show how stabilized this lens is. I'm going to post a link to that one below. Now, there are other tests online that show that this lens is even more stabilized than the IBIS in the Sony a6600, which is really cool. So it's very good for doing things like this, and even if I'm shaking my hands a little bit, it's going to take that shake out of it, which is really, really good. So because I already have a lens that's stabilized, I don't really need that IBIS, and I wanted the best stabilization possible, and if this lens gives it to me, that's what I've got to be using. Now, I don't use this lens for photos. The reason is that it isn't that sharp. It really isn't. It's a decent lens, but if I'm going through the effort of climbing a mountain or going out to take portraits of friends, I really want a better lens, and that's why I've got these three lenses here, which are the Sigma Trio. So that's pretty much all for the camera. I am using a little rig here, which is by Small Rig. You'll see it here. And this piece allows me to mount a microphone over here and not block the actual screen here, so I can still see myself. So that's what I'm using for vlogging. Now let's talk about the other lenses. So this is the Sigma Trio here. So these are three lenses that are very popular for this camera here. So we're going to start at the widest lens. This is the 16mm f1.4. This is a very popular lens. You'll see a lot of vloggers and bloggers talking about it because it offers a very wide field of view. Now, I don't actually like using this lens for vlogging. I used to use it like when I'm doing these talking head style shots here. The reason I don't use it anymore is because it makes my head look really big. Funnily enough, I'm actually testing the Fuji camera right now, the X-T3, and I am filming this video using their equivalent of this lens. So, you know, this is an example. I think my head looks too big in the shots. If you look at my most recent videos, I'm using a different lens and I think it's better proportioned. I think it's clearer. Another reason why I don't use the 16mm lens for vlogging, especially talking head videos, is because I often use a teleprompter at the end, especially for deeply technical content. I write a script and then I read off it. So with this lens, it's so wide that what happens is this contraption cuts off the picture. So that's why I use a 30mm lens, because it shoots through this, or at least that's another reason why I use the 30mm lens. So I've moved away from using this lens for these type of talking head videos, and what I am using this lens for is landscape photography, because I think it's got a really nice wide field of view. It's very sharp, very clear lens. It's also good for taking pictures at, say, parties when there's lots of people around, or dinners or things like that, because you can get a lot of people in the shot. So that's what I'm using this lens for. I generally travel with this lens because it is a really good lens. The next lens I'm going to talk about is my Sigma 30mm f1.4. And this lens is what I use for making my YouTube videos, and for two reasons. One, as I said before, this is the lens that is how the eye kind of sees the world. So I look better in proportion, and my most recent videos are on this lens. The other thing about this lens that's really good is it's great for just walking around and doing photography, because again, it's how the eye sees the world. You're also going to get a lot of blurry background with this lens. So if you shoot portraits with this lens, you will start to get that nice blurry background effect, which is really appealing. It's very small, lightweight. Honestly, this is my favorite lens. And if I'm walking around on a holiday with this camera, this is the one that's normally on the lens, unless I'm doing vlogging, right? And I'm moving. Now, none of these lenses are stabilized, by the way, which is why I have this one, as I said, because if I walk around with any of these lenses and try and take a picture of myself, especially this one, the one that's very wide, you're going to see a lot of jitters in the video. It's not going to be very pleasant. So my favorite lens, I'm going to put this back because I definitely am going to be using that one. The next lens is a portrait lens, which is the 56mm. This is the newest lens by Sigma. It's super crisp, super sharp. Sorry, the lens cap came off. So it's super crisp, super sharp, as I said. This is a lens that's for special occasions. So if I'm specifically taking pictures of a friend for their LinkedIn profile, their dating profile, or something like that, or, you know, in this case, I'm going to see my parents, my family, you know, my dog, I definitely want to take some really nice, crisp portrait style photos. So I don't normally travel with this lens, but because of the type of trip I'm going on this time, I am taking it with me. Now, I will say one thing. Sony did come out with a lens that is a zoom lens that covers this full focal range, and it is a nice lens. It goes down to f2.8, which is enough light coming in to perfectly use it outdoors. It's not stabilized like these, but it would have made my trip a little bit more lightweight. The reason that I didn't go for that lens is because for indoors, you know, when there's lower light, it's better to have an aperture that's 1.4. That's a full stop more light. So for shots like this, it's going to be more clear. So that's why I went with these three. It's a little bit more of a hassle than just having one zoom lens. But, you know, generally speaking, when I do photography, I have a specific purpose that I'm doing for the day. So I'm hiking a mountain. Well, that's this lens, which is the wider lens. Or maybe I'm just walking around the streets and I might see something. Well, that's this lens. Or maybe I'm specifically going out for some portraits. Well, that's this lens. And even if I did have the other lens, guess what? Because it's not stabilized, I would still need this vlogging lens anyway. So, you know, that's why I went with this particular approach. Plus, honestly, on the camera itself, each of these lenses are actually lighter, and some are substantially lighter than that other lens. I'm going to post a link to it below anyway if you do want to get that other lens. Now, let's move through the rest of the gear. Spare batteries. These batteries don't last very long, maybe 45 minutes at the most, maybe an hour. I'm using the Deity D3 Pro, which is my mic. This is the standard mic I use when I'm on the camera. I also hang it above my head when I'm making YouTube videos. It is a great mic, highly recommend it. I do have a second mic, which I keep in here. I'm wearing it right now. This is the Lapel Mic. It's a Rode lapel mic. I'll put a link in it in the description below. This is a great backup mic. And also, if I don't want to carry this around, like say I'm going hiking and I may make a video, but may not, I'll bring this mic because it's lighter. I've got a spare SD card here, obviously. This is a dead cat that goes on the mic to prevent wind from, you know, distracting you while I'm talking. This is a strap that I put around myself and it hooks into the camera here, and it makes it really easy to take the camera off and on. It is a Peak Design strap, it's really good. These are lens caps that you screw on, and when you screw them on, it means that if the sun's going to be somewhat coming into the lens, it kind of blocks it, so you don't get that J.J. Abrams Star Trek effect of everything being, you know, lens flares everywhere. So if you want that effect, don't use it, but if you don't want that effect, do use it. The next one is in here. These are filters. So what you're going to see here is I can screw these on top of the camera there. And what these do is help with very specific purposes. So the most notable of these filters is an 8-stop ND filter by B&W. What that means is for video, so if I'm using this vlogging outside, it's super bright. In video, you have to set the shutter speed to something that's double your frame rate. So normally if you're filming at 24 frames per second, which I normally do, you're gonna set the shutter speed at 50. Now, that means that a lot of light's gonna come in and everything's gonna be just completely washed out and overexposed in a sunny day. So the 8-stop ND filter enables you to do that. So to bring down the light. So what will happen is when I'm filming a video, I can still have myself, subject separation. You see me very clearly, the background might be blurry. It just makes it a lot easier to watch. Now in photography, it's not as necessary because you can just up the shutter speed. You don't have that rule where you just have to have the shutter speed set to twice your frames per second. The other main filter that I use is something called a polarizer. And this enables me to shoot out windows. So often when you're doing photography, you know, what will happen is if you shoot a window, you get a reflection. This enables me to shoot through that. So another very useful filter. Now, the next thing over here is an Aperture Light. I use Aperture for all my lights, to be honest. So this is a little light here, and I can put it on top of the camera so it's quite bright. And I can put it at myself like this. So sometimes I hold it off camera to give myself a little bit of extra light. Where this becomes really useful is, say I want to take a background behind me and there's a lot of light behind me, but not enough light on my face. This gives me a little bit of extra light on my face so you can see me and the background. Very handy. Now, over here we have a card reader because unfortunately a lot of laptops nowadays don't have SD card readers, which really sucks. Here we have a blower which enables me to blow air on the lenses to get dust off, and of course a travel cleaning kit for the lenses. Moving on to this side, so let's go through here. So firstly I have the Powerbeats Pro. I really like these wireless earbuds. These are really, really good. I actually had one before. This is my second version that I had to replace because one of them wasn't working very well, kept disconnecting and popping, but this version has been working very well. Very, very handy, and they have long battery life, so honestly, you can take them out of the case and I can just walk around like this all day, and it's really small, which is good. The next thing here, a lot of people have asked me about my watch. This is the Garmin Fenix 6S Pro. It is very, very good. I really like it. I didn't get the sapphire version of the screen because it's very reflective. This one isn't as reflective, even though it's not quite as strong as the sapphire glass, but it has everything I need, honestly. It tells the weather, it tells my heartbeat, it tells the calories I've done per day. It monitors my calories and my heart, well, particularly my heartbeat when I'm swimming and doing lap swimming, and I do a lot of lap swimming, so that's really good. Gets all the notifications, has the music, has, you know, a Garmin Pay, which is like Apple Pay, so it's been a really good watch, and it lasts for 9 days on battery life, so I almost never think about charging it, which is just so refreshing compared to something like the Apple Watch. Again, links, all of this stuff will be in the description below. The next thing here, I have a nice Toomey wallet here that holds my driver's license for Australia, my passport, green card, all of that fun stuff. And over here, you know, I haven't seen a lot of YouTubers talking about this, but this is actually makeup. I don't use a lot of makeup, but when I do film, I do put a tinted moisturizer on just to take out some of the blemishes in my face, make it more appealing for you guys to watch. And I also use this, which is a blotting powder. And what this means is if I'm sweating or things like that, or a little bit hot, you know, it takes away some of the reflection coming from the light that you guys are gonna see, and it'll be very distracting. So I do use that. Moving along, we're talking about, these are Bose headphones. These are the older model. This isn't the latest model, but you know, the QC version 2, 35 version 2. These are just so good. You know, I really haven't had the need to upgrade, even though I am a tech guy. I know there's a new model out, but these are just so good. And of course, in here, I've got the all-important device that switches me to allow me to use them on a plane, just in case they have that awful connection, which has two 3.5mm jacks. So I've got that in there, and there's a cable to connect the two together. So that's that. Then moving along here, let's talk about our favorite topic, laptops. So this is actually a silver iPad here. It's an iPad Pro 11. It's really good just to have a bigger screen device if I'm walking around. Now, normally I do not ever walk around with an iPad. I always walk around every day with a laptop. And the reason being is because I do actually have some support of some production systems. So as a software developer, if the system goes down, if there's an issue, you might want to debug that issue. I do occasionally have that happen, very, 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 very infrequently, but I just want to be careful. Now, I normally have a lightweight laptop. I've been using the Dell XPS 9370, which really for me is the screen's a bit too small. So early this year, I'm going to be experimenting with a couple of different laptops to take its place. One that I have, it's over here, is this one, the Lenovo X1 Carbon 7th gen. It's got the 10-core i5 CPU. Got that CPU because I didn't want it to run as hot. It is phenomenal. Love that keyboard. Really just totally comfortable to use. But I was going to take this with me to Australia and do a video of a portable laptop traveling, right? And that would be the review. But this laptop seriously has the worst PWM flickering I have ever seen. I'm going to run a video clip of it right now and you can take a look. Seriously, any brightness setting other than full brightness, and this is 500 nits, you don't want to run it at full brightness a lot. It's got extreme PWM. So I think this one might have to sit at home. If you really want me to review it, just let me know and I certainly will. We've now talked about the tech that I'm using when I'm, just walking around, going for getting a coffee. I've always got my backpack with me. It's either the iPad or that. And the iPad's good too because I can plug in this SD card reader and view videos on it and photos, etc. The laptop I'm using, no surprises here if you followed my channel recently. The silver MacBook Pro 16. So I did do that video on the MacBook Pro 16 silver versus space gray, the silver won out. I think it looks better in my apartment certainly, and 4% extra performance on the space gray model that I had. A lot of people asked if that was just a model difference. Yes, I do not expect every silver model to perform 4% faster than every space gray. I expect them to, on average, perform around the same. Behind here, I have a 2 terabyte SanDisk Extreme Disk. My laptop has a 1 terabyte storage. I really wish I actually got the 2 terabyte model, but honestly 1 terabyte is quite a lot. But if I need more storage and to back up while on the go, I have this 2 terabyte drive. I do normally back up my files in the cloud as well, but oftentimes internet connections in hotels is a little bit slow, so I expect to be backing up here. Over here we have some chargers, all the cables. Now this is a really cool device. It's from Ankler. You plug it in and it's got here a bunch of power ports and 3 USB-C ones with fast charge, which is really cool because I can just plug all my devices into one thing here and I am good. I don't even need the extension cable that Apple sells separately because I can plug it in here. That is it. That's what's in my travel bag. That's what I'm being using. I am testing the Fuji X-T3 to see if, hey, the quality of it is better than the camera I've been using. So notice that the video quality of this one might be a little bit different. If you like this better, just leave it in the description below. I'd love to hear about it. Anyway, folks, that's all for today. If you like this video, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button, click the thumbs up and the notification bell. I would certainly appreciate it. Until next time, I'll catch you later.